Welcome to episode 31 of Everything Sports with Aman. I'm your host, Aman Karni, and I talk about the hottest topics in sports over the course of the past week. And yes, these Friday episodes are returning. Obviously, every Friday, there will be no fantasy minute. If you want your daily fantasy or weekly fantasy picks for basketball, football, honestly, more sports will come, but that's what the fantasy show is every Saturday. It's just 30, 40-minute episodes just talking about fantasy sports. So if you want your daily pickups, go over there. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram to keep up with my podcast. And let's get it started, man. Excited to for the return of these Friday episodes. And today I'm going to be talking about the NBA surprises early on in this season, specifically the Warriors, the Bulls, and the Lakers struggles. Because the Lakers struggling, yes, they need chemistry, but I'll tell you why. There's many issues going on with the Lakers right now. We're going to be talking about the World Series. That's been an entertaining series to watch, and actually the MLB playoffs as a whole. And then we are going to talk about NFL. We're about halfway through the season, and we just came up with an amazing Thursday night game. Packers beating the Cardinals by 3. But first, that will be at the end of the episode. Start of the episode. Let's talk about Lakers struggles, man. I know they completely rebuilt their roster. I know there's only 3 players returning from last season on this Lakers roster in Taylor Horton Tucker, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James. But you blew a 26-point lead to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And yes, LeBron was playing. But the Thunder are one of those bottom feeding teams in the West. And that's because they're a very young team. It's not like they're a team that's constantly struggling. They're a very young team. I feel like they're going to do well in the future because of the massive amounts of picks they have. So they're going to be a problem in the future, is what my prediction will be. Obviously, not immediately, but the Thunder are 1-4, tied for last in the West with a few teams and the Rockets, Spurs, Pelicans. These are all up and coming teams. And yes, Thunder will beat teams here and there. They're not going to lose all 82 games of the year. But the fact that it came against the Lakers, they had so much time to draw up a play and they came up short both times. And Carmelo Anthony just catching and shooting. Yes, he's been that guy, but he airballed the 3. You had about 10-ish seconds left. You could have held the ball. And yes, 10 seconds isn't a lot of time, but actually it's a lot of time to actually put up a decent look. I feel like Melo just caught the ball and just chucked up a shot just to be lucky and see what happens. And chemistry, I keep saying this, even about the Nets and the Lakers. Like, for example, the Nets are 2-3. They're 12th in the Eastern Conference. And yes, it's just the 5 games. I want to overreact too much. The Lakers are 2-3 as well. But then now when you got the Knicks off to a hot start, the Bulls, which we're going to talk about later, the Hornets, which we're going to talk about later, the Wizards, I don't know how long they're going to stay up there. Miami Heat, I definitely think they're going to do well this year. The Cavaliers, I think. So obviously some teams are going to get in the playoffs, and the standings right now won't reflect the standings at the end of the season. But I mean, what I was going to say is I say it with the Brooklyn Nets, I say it with the LA Lakers. Sometimes you can have this boatload of talent, but if that talent does not have chemistry, if the team does not have chemistry, then there are going to be issues. And those issues, you can see it with the Lakers. Westbrook, I'm not saying he definitely doesn't ball hog. Excuse me. He definitely doesn't ball hog, but he likes getting triple doubles. And when you want to alleviate some pressure off of LeBron, which is why you got him, so LeBron's workload can be less. I feel like his workload is more because now he needs to be focused on leading this team to avoid the play-in tournament. Because if the Lakers are in the play-in tournament, I don't think they make the playoffs. If they aren't in the play-in tournament and actually miss the playoffs entirely, I'm not sure if that realistically is possible. But honestly, my prediction for the Lakers is the play-in game. So many people are saying that the Lakers have so many old players that it's good to have that wisdom around. But my thing is, the league is becoming fast paced 3 point shooting every year. And the Lakers, if this was like 2010, 2011, they're the best team in NBA history. But that is in 2010, 2011. Now, today, October 29th, 2021, I'm not sure if that can work out because the Lakers lack defense. They lack chemistry. Chemistry will hopefully come along the way. And I don't want to overreact too much, but I feel like they definitely have to figure it out because now we go to the surprises of the season thus far. The the Grizzlies 3-2. Honestly, even though Ja Morant's on a man on a mission, 3-2 is a respectable for the Grizzlies. I don't think that the team record is a surprise there. But Minnesota Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards, great start. The Warriors, the Warriors, man. Stephen Curry hasn't scored in the fourth quarter the past 4 games, I believe. That's gonna need to change. He's been struggling in the fourth quarter, not past 4 games, past 3 games, because the Clippers, he scored a couple of clutch shots, but someone needs to like people have been stepping up for the Warriors. Like Damian Lee, he's honestly stagnant throughout the game until clutch time where he decides to show up. But the Warriors, regardless, 4-1. If they continue like this, and we just got news that Jonathan Kuminga will make his debut for Saturday, with all this depth and with Clay coming back, the Warriors could be an NBA Finals team, and many people just don't want to admit it. But the Eastern Conference surprises. New York Knicks 4-1. They just got an impressive win with the Bulls. And my surprises are simply the Chicago Bulls and Charlotte Hornets. The Chicago Bulls didn't earn enough respect for their offseason acquisitions, and I don't know why, because now they have Lonzo Ball. We know who he is. Now Zach LaVine. I like to call him a superstar because he is a superstar and he is that guy. Small forward, DeMar DeRozan. He is one of my favorite players in the NBA. He has a deadly jump shot, and the Raptors did him so dirty. Power forward, and then you got Nikola Vucevic. Nikola Vucevic. We already know who he is. He's been a perennial all-star center for the past few years, actually. And then Alex Caruso, everyone calls him the GOAT. He's such a fan favorite, and he's been going off on defense all year. These offseason acquisitions for the Bulls make them a really good sleeper team in the East. And when I mean sleeper team in the East, I mean they're going to avoid the play-in and be in that seed for 4, 5, or 6. And then the Charlotte Hornets, LaMelo Ball is doing LaMelo Ball things. And then Miles Bridges, he turned down 4 years, $60 million. Obviously, that can be a risk because we saw what Dennis Schroeder did. But Miles Bridges, the way he's playing, he is going to deservingly get a super max extension the way he's been playing thus far. And so if he can keep it up, then he's going to have a massive payday coming his way in the future. So now, obviously, normally we'd be doing Fantasy Minute, but tune into the Fantasy Show tomorrow if you want your fantasy stuff. And now we go to football, NFL. The Cardinals, everyone ranks Cardinals. I feel like this was the one week that the Cardinals actually was number one on people's rankings, but the Cardinals, I feel like they're a legit playoff team. I know so many people keep saying that, oh, they go through the regular season and then they just choke in the playoffs. I don't think that's going to happen. And it's unfortunate that JJ Watt had to go down with have like four injuries, like dislocated shoulder and like so many injuries. I feel for JJ Watt because uh he is I you cannot make a case against him not being the best defensive end, defensive lineman, whatever you want to call him, best in NFL history. He suffered so many injuries in their previous game. It sucks to see him go, but I feel like the Cardinals are legit contenders. And obviously, the LA Rams, Matthew Stafford's been rolling, absolutely rolling. And that stacked NFC West, I don't think anyone predicted necessarily what would happen to the Niners because they're banged up with injuries with George Kittle, Garoppolo missed some time, and obviously Seattle Seahawks without Russell Wilson. I feel like this is just a season to forget, and it's unfortunate with the Niners, especially because even last year they were without Garoppolo, they were without Nick Bosa, George Kittle, so many guys with missed time last year, and it's unfortunate that you potentially maybe just have to like scratch the season and move on. And even though it's 2-4, there are 17 games now. You can pick it up, but the Niners do have to change some things, potentially incorporate Trey Lance more. If you incorporate Trey Lance more, because his main position is a quarterback, I feel like that's a good strategic move for the 49ers to do, to somehow incorporate him like Taysom Hill, because that gives you diversity to an offense that's easy to game plan for if you're defense, specifically just the play action pass that the Niners like to do, the bootleg, the jet sweep to Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, whoever you want to give it to. But I feel like the Niners offense is just very predictable. You should try to incorporate Trey Lance in some way to add that diversity to the offense so that you can fool the defense and potentially win some games. And the Packers Cardinals game was amazing. And I just want to reflect back to when the Packers absolutely got shellacked by the New Orleans Saints. I knew that this was going to happen. Everyone is saying that Aaron Rodgers is trying to push his way out of Green Bay. It feels like that week one happened years ago because they have won 7 straight. They're like them, the Buccaneers, the Rams. So many teams are like the hottest team in football right now. The Tennessee Titans, King Henry is the truth. He is absolutely amazing. Amazing. You cannot make up what Derrick Henry is doing. Just fantastic. Tennessee Titans, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase. So many honestly surprises, because if I told you that the Cincinnati Bengals sort of midway through the season would be sitting atop the entire AFC, I think you'd be lying. And if I said that, you guys would think I'm lying. But guess what? I'm not lying. The Cincinnati Bengals with 5-2, they're tied with the Raiders, Titans, Bills, Ravens, Chargers. All the 1 through 6 is like either 4-2 because they had a bye already, or 5-2. So the AFC is going down to the wire. Same goes for the NFC. because you have the Packers, Cardinals at 7-1, the Buccaneers at 6-1, Cowboys 5-1, and the Rams 6-1. And obviously, the Cardinals and Packers are 7-1 because they just played on Thursday Night Football. But my point is, the NFL, man, it's so entertaining to watch. And Bengals are off to like, I don't know, Jamar Chase is probably a top 10 receiver in the league already, and he's only a rookie. I want to call him top 5. He's definitely top 10, though. And something that we could not predict, the Kansas City Chiefs going 3-4. Patrick Mahomes took a really big hit, but the defense, man, I never really liked their defense. You need to sign someone on your defense or sign another playmaker, wide receiver, because it's just Mahomes, Hill, Travis Kelce, like Pringle. You have Robinson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is banged up. Sign a receiver, sign another tight end to play with Kelce to sort of alleviate the pressure off Patrick Mahomes, because so much is falling on Patrick Mahomes. When he doesn't do well, the team doesn't do well. And when you're supposed to have a decent defense who's aren't really playing up to their standards, frankly, then you have no excuses. Because right now the Chiefs, as I said, 3-4, it's been a struggle all year long. I say Tyrann Mathieu, he always throwing his hands up on defense, like yelling at the other guys, like, "What are you doing?" Tyrann Mathieu is a really good player, but I feel like that Chiefs defense, they don't have any. They're playing like they don't have any stars on that side. They literally just won the Super Bowl a couple seasons ago, and like their defense, their offensive line too. Obviously, they have to develop some chemistry, but we're approaching midway through the season. It's either now or never for the Chiefs. I'm telling you right now. It's either now or never. So many people say that they're going to pick it up. I honestly don't see the Chiefs in the playoffs, in the NFL playoffs. I'm calling that right now. The Chiefs won't be in the NFL playoffs the same way I'm calling that the Lakers are only as good as a playing team. That is my take on, frankly, the NBA and NFL. It might be hot takes to you, but honestly, I think it's a good chance of actually happening. But now let's really quickly talk about the World Series. We got the Houston Astros versus the Atlanta Braves. And I don't want to sound really biased as a San Francisco Giants fan, even though that was the wrong call at the end of that Dodgers game. Dodgers ended up losing in 6, I believe, against the Atlanta Braves. But I'm so happy for the Braves, man. I really hope they win. And I hope they win just for baseball, because the Houston Astros winning another World Series, it's just going to turn so many heads, because no MLB fan wants the Houston Astros to win a World Series. I don't think it hurts the look of baseball. I just think it's bad for baseball, because like Atlanta Braves, they have to rebuild their outfield through the injuries on the trade deadline, but man, did it pay off. Rosario is that guy we've been knowing about. Freddie Freeman. On a side note, I really hope Freddie Freeman gets a World Series ring this year, because he is the most likable and funny guy, I feel like, in the good portion of the MLB. I really hope the Braves win the World Series. I think the Braves will win in 5 or 6. And yes, I said 5, meaning I think they will win the next 3 or the next 3 out of 4. I mean, you just got to ride the hot hand, man, in situations like this. But I'm so happy for Freddie Freeman. And Houston Astros, I feel like once that cheating scandal happened, honestly just lost respect for them. Because even if they're playing this well without cheating, why did you cheat in the first place? Is my question. It's a bad look for you. Not only you, your players, your manager, your city, for Houston sports. It's just a bad look. You're tarnishing so many players' images. And Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, like there's players in this team I just lost respect for ever since the cheating scandal. Like Houston Astros to win the World Series, to me, I feel like any fan is like your rival, your whatever sport team you vote for, your local team, your rival beating you in a game 7 on a game winner. That's what it's gonna feel like for me if the Houston Astros win the World Series, because there's no place for cheating in baseball. There's no place for cheating in sports. That's my take. I think the Braves will win 5 or 6 because I truly, just for the sake of baseball, don't want the Houston Astros to win the World Series. And with that, that will wrap up episode 31. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for the fantasy show with Evan Garber. And make sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter for updates about my podcast. And see you tomorrow or next week.